Okay, hello again. I had an email from Danielle who asked a question, and I'm going to answer it, but also this is going to be the first of a series of videos, and I'm calling it Practical Tarot Reading. And it's going to deal with the kinds of typical situations that you come up against when reading for other people or for yourself. And it can be a difficulty, or you can be doubtful about what to do, or unsure about how to proceed. And I'm thinking that videos that deal with actual problems that people have as readers might be useful. So what happens with Danielle is she'll often do, I don't know about often, but she'll begin a reading with a general outlook, general forecast maybe. So she'll maybe pick 3 cards for past, present and future. Or she'll just pick 3 cards and look at them and give some kind of description and explanation of what's going on and how things are going to develop for the particular questioner. But then sometimes people will ask a specific question, like, when is this going to happen? Or what about this individual? And she wants to know, can you then, or do you then use the cards you've already picked and maybe reinterpret them? Or do you pick new cards to answer the particular question that the individual has asked? So that's what I'm going to answer or give you my opinion on in this little video. First though, let me talk about sport. There's a reason for this, and it's an example. So maybe you're sitting talking to somebody about football or cricket or baseball, some kind of team sport. And then the conversation turns to golf or tennis, right? So golf and tennis are individual games. It's you and your mind against, let's say, the ball. Whereas with baseball and football, it's a team sport. So it's all sport. So maybe you can take some of the things you've been talking about with football and baseball and apply them in your discussion or conversation about golf, let's say, or tennis. The thing is, they're different because let's say it's baseball and it's the bottom of the ninth and the bases are loaded and you've got 1 out left and you're that player, right? You've got a particular moment in the game. You have to hit the ball. You have to keep it in play. Otherwise, your team is lost and the game's over. Whereas with tennis, you can have a bad game, right? You can hit the ball all over the place. In some ways, it doesn't matter. It certainly doesn't matter the same way because you can pick up in the next game and maybe make up the lost ground, right? But you can't do that you can't do it the same way with a team sport. So if you go back to a reading, you've got, let's say, 3 cards and you've talked about past, present and future. If the question is something that relates to what's already been spoken about, or if you can see clearly there's a connection or how the cards can be read to answer that question, then I'm going to say do it. Do something more with the cards that you've looked at, or maybe say again what you said about those 3 cards, but applying it to the particular question that the person has asked. But if there's no real connection, then pick something new and answer the question like that. So let's say somebody wants to know, they just want some kind of reading. And let's say the first card is the 3 of Cups. Okay, 3 of Cups. You know this one. So we've got the 3 women. There's celebration, happiness, joy. The cups are raised in the air. Good times, good company, good relationships between the people, and presumably it's good for relationships generally, right? So you've got good reason to be happy. We can say that from this 3 of Cups coming up, which may be the past, maybe the present, maybe the future, but it's something to look at. It's one part of what's going on in the person's life at the moment. So there's a lot of good happening. Let's say the next card is the Tower. I can hold this up. Okay, so with the Tower, this is a very different kind of situation because we have a Tower, we've got the man and the woman who've been knocked out. and the lightning flashes come along and knock the crown off the tower. So it's a card of disruption and upset and maybe unexpected happenings that cause difficulties in the life of the person or in the lives of the people that you're talking about. Right? You can see because it's also change, but unwelcome change probably. So with this one, maybe you talk about when you recognize that things are going wrong or things aren't quite right or something is beginning to come apart, you're better to face it and deal with it and do something about it there and then rather than leave it till later and hope it'll fix itself or hope that it'll clear up and you won't have to deal with it. There's an English motto, a stitch in time saves 9. And maybe that's what would be important with this particular card, that if something is beginning to undo itself, fix it up there and then. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a big job, right? But if you're attentive and you're concentrating on what's in front of you or what you have to do, you can save yourself an awful lot of trouble in the long run by dealing with it right now. So, and let's say the third card is the King of Pentacles, right? So it's a king. Presumably with a king, you're dealing with somebody who knows what they're about. It's Pentacles for money, so the person knows how to handle money or knows how to make money. But Pentacles also represents values. So this is a person, the king is somebody who knows what he cares about and can be more successful because of that. Because if you don't know what you want or where you're going or what you need to do to get there, and you're full of doubt or you've got uncertainty, you end up sort of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Whereas this King of Pentacles, because he knows what he wants and what he's about and what's to be done, he's going to have greater success. Right? So that those can be the 3 important factors. So when you talk to the person about these 3 cards, they'll agree or disagree, or they'll give you details that will make the card more relevant to their particular situation, we can say. So you do your 3 readings, or talk about the 3 cards. And then maybe what you do is you look at 2 together. So the 3 of Cups and the Tower, and you blend them or combine them. So maybe you would talk about how make sure that celebration doesn't get out of hand, right? So don't drink too much. Don't over-celebrate. There's a time when you're supposed to get back to work, let's say, or get back to doing what has to be done. Don't drink and drive, right? The 3 of Cups and the Tower together. And then maybe you look at the other combination, which can be the Tower and the King of Pentacles, right? These 2. So with this combination, you put them together and you've got what? That things are going to go wrong because things inevitably get complicated or go wrong. And there needs to be change. But when the King of Pentacles, when you know what it is you're going for, or what it is you want, or what direction you want to go in, then you're going to recognize when a little niggle or a little problem is beginning to develop. And you can get rid of it or deal with it or change it in the early stages so that you haven't got a major problem to deal with later. And then maybe you look at all 3 together, the 3 of Cups, the Tower, and the King of Pentacles. And there's reason to celebrate, but things can go wrong. So stay on top of it and things will go well. There's another, I was reminded of a poem by a line from If by Rudyard Kipling, just with that Tower and the King of Pentacles, because in If, Kipling writes, if you can keep your head when all around are losing theirs and blaming it on you. And that's kind of the Tower and the King of Pentacles together, side by side. So let's say you take a few minutes and you talk about the 3 individual cards with the questioner and various things come up, and maybe they agree or disagree or give you details about how that card makes sense for them at the moment. But then they say, okay, is my son going to get married? Let's say they have a son who's 22, and they say, is my son going to get married? You look at these three cards, and if you can easily relate the question to the cards, if there's some kind of obvious connection, then I think we should revisit those three cards and talk about, talk about them answering that particular question. So we've got in the Tower card, we've got the man and the woman, or we've got the Three of Cups for celebration. We've got the man and the woman being knocked out of the Tower, and we've got the King of Pentacles. This is a man, or it can be a man, King of Pentacles. So let's say this is the son. So I think you can answer, is the son going to get married, by looking at these three. Is he going to get married? He will when he gets himself together, because the King of Pentacles knows what he cares about. So with the Tower, there are going to be upsets in his relationships. But don't worry about it, because the king is upright. That means that when things go wrong, your son or this son is going to learn something from it so that he doesn't make the same mistake again. And so as time goes by, as he has more than one relationship, he's going to get more sure about what he wants, and then he's going to find it. So the answer is yes, he's going to get married, but probably not tomorrow. But once he's had a few experiences, maybe bad experiences, but that's fair enough, then he'll understand what he needs to understand. Then he'll be in a strong position to marry and have a family and all the rest of it. So, I wrote this question down earlier, I couldn't remember it. So if the question is, instead of will my son get married, and the other thing is, if the person says, okay, when is it going to happen? You could say it'll happen when he knows his own mind, but maybe the person wants to know a number. So you say, how old is he? And he's 22, and you pick a card, and I get the Three of Pentacles, right? So you say, in 3 something. So if the son's involved in a relationship now, it's not going to be 3 days or 3 weeks. Maybe it's 3 months, but let's go with 3 years, because he's got a certain amount to learn, and it's going to take time. So let's say 3 years, or round about age 25. Whereas if we'd got the Six of Swords upside down, we would probably think that's 6 years, and it's upside down. So 22 and 6 is 28. You say to the woman, it looks like he's going to be closer to 30. It's going to take him a few years, a few experiences to understand what he needs to understand. So we're probably looking at close to age 30 when he's going to find somebody and get married and have a family. So that's relating a question back to the 3 cards that come up. And you can see the connection. You can see how a question about a son's relationships can fit in with the Three of Cups, the Tower, and the King of Pentacles. But let's say the questioner says, okay, Three of Cups, Tower, and King of Pentacles, I understand all that. Should I relocate? Should I move to the other side of the country? That's more difficult to see an obvious connection between the cards that came up and the new question. So I think it's a bit like going back to baseball and golf or cricket or tennis. It's all sport, but you've got very different requirements for each of the different sports, even though you have to be strong and agile and fit and all the rest of it and understand tactics. But nevertheless, there are very specific differences between them. So somebody asking, should I relocate to another part of the country? I think in that case, you could give general information based on the 3 cards and say, when you know what you want, that's the time to to relocate. But I think at that point I would want to pick a card, and I would get one, and I get the Queen of the Queen of Batons upside down as it happens. So I would say no. If his card is upright, yes, and you look at the card itself and explain why. If the card is upside down, then you say no, and you look at the card, and based on the card that you chose, you explain why not. And the reason is, if it's a woman, because the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Batons is upside down, you wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't have any power. You wouldn't have things go the way you want them to go, because it's a queen who gives commands, but it's upside down, so the commands don't work. Right, so you'd be better to stay where you are, because here you know people, you've got people that you're friendly with. You would miss them too much if you were to relocate. Something along those lines. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's not so much what a card means that's important. It's more what sense does it make in the answer to the question. So the question is about a woman relocating, and the answer is a queen upside down. You know it's not going to suit her, so why not? And you figure out some kind of logical reason why it's not going to suit. So the Queen of Batons rather is likes company, and so you think about what the Queen of Batons would mean, and then take the other side of it and explain why she wouldn't find that in a new location. So she's better to stay where she is for the moment and let things develop. So that's it. If you have comments, leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you want. Send me an email, bllntr@yahoo.com, and we'll see you next time. Okay. And if you've a question, or if you'd like a subject, if you've got a subject for a video, send me an email, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. Okay? Bye-bye.